Welcome to Mathematics with Suleiman, and this is the very first installment of the prelim of 2025, which was written in the Gauteng province. And yes, it doesn't matter from which province you are, all of you can benefit by watching this series in preparation for your prelim exams, which is coming shortly. Preparatory Examination 2025, Paper 1, Question 1 of the Gauteng Province. Now, of course, question 1 is based on the quadratic equations and inequalities, simultaneous equations, exponents, nature of the roots of quadratics. And if you look at my little template there, I have various examples there for you on quadratic equations, quadratic inequalities, simultaneous equations, exponents, nature of the roots. So please take note, that is what you can expect in paper 1. Question 1. Right, question 1. 1.1 given is that the f of x equals to bracket x squared minus 3, another bracket 3x minus 1, and another bracket x plus 2. Now you must solve the f of x if the f of x equals to 0. So let that function be equal to 0. Then of course each bracket will individually be equals to 0. So therefore x squared minus 3 will be 0. 3x minus 1 will be 0, and x plus 2 will be 0. So that gives you thus, the first one is x is plus or minus the square root of 3, x is 1/3, or x is minus 2. But remember now that x must be an integer, so you need to remember now what is an integer. Yes, an integer are all the numbers 0, negative numbers, positive numbers, but not fractions. So therefore, the only answer here is x equals to negative 2. Secondly, if x is a rational number, now you can include 1/3. Why 1/3? Because it is a fraction that repeats or recur. So that is allowed. And of course, x minus 2. But not the square root of 3, because that is not rational. And then lastly, x a real number. So that will be all three of them. Because remember now, what entails real numbers is basically all the numbers except the non-real ones. And let's look at 1.2, solve for x. And of course, if the instruction is to the first decimal or second decimal, you must be very careful what the instruction says. So if it says first decimal, then remember now to round off to first decimal. So then, of course, you are allowed to use a formula now. So remember the formula, minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Then remember, negative 15 is A, negative 9 is B, and 4 is C. Then you do your substitution, use your calculator, and you will get negative 0.89, which you must round off to negative 0.9, or 0.29, which you must round off to 0.3. So very careful, you need to follow the instructions. And then 1.22. An inequality, 3x minus 2 all squared greater or equals to 3x. First, get rid of the brackets, take the 3x to the left hand side, factorize, and then let each bracket be equal to 0 just for now, to get your 1/3 and to get your 4/3. Then you can plot it on a line as shown there, and then you can test all your values to see whether they satisfy the inequality. And you will notice it is only to the left of 1/3 and to the right of 4/3. So in between the two will not satisfy the equation. So therefore your answer is then x less than or equals to 1/3 or x greater or equals to 4/3. Please be careful in dealing with inequalities. Right, 1.2.3, given is an exponential example, 5 to the power x equals to 5 into 4 plus 5 to the power 2 minus x. So what you do is first remove the brackets. So it is 5 times 4 is 20, and of course 5 times 5 to the power 2 minus x. Then secondly, you can multiply each term by 5 to the power x. Then you get 5 to the power 2x equals to 20 times 5 to the power x plus 125. Then, of course, take all your terms to the left-hand side and factorize. So at this stage, you can either use the K method or you don't have to. Or you can just stick to the normal method. So 5 to the power x equals to 25, and the other one is 5 to the power x equals to -5. So then the 25 becomes 5 squared, so therefore x equals to 2, and the other one is the right-hand side is a negative, so that doesn't work, so it is not allowed. Right, so therefore x equals to 2, or you can say 5 to the power x will have to be greater than 0 in order to be allowed to work. Example 1.3, solve for x and y. So this is simultaneous equations. So the log of 16 base x equals to 4, and the other one is y plus square root of x plus 7 equals to x plus 1, and of course x has to be greater or equal to 0. So let's first look at the log equation. Remember now, the log of a number is the exponent, so therefore x is the base, 4 is the exponent, and 16 is the number. So therefore x to the power 4 equals to 16. That is the so-called exponential form. 16 is 2 to the power 4, so therefore x equals to 2. Same exponents equals to the same basis. Then you substitute s equals to 2 into the second equation, and you get y plus square root of 2 plus 7 equals to 2 plus 1. So y plus 2 plus 7 is 9 equals to 3. Now be careful now. It is very tempting to find the square root of 9, which is 3. But it is not going to work, because remember, square root of 9 is plus or minus 3. So therefore you need to leave it as a square root. Take the y to the right-hand side, and then rather square both sides. So the square root of 9, if it's squared, it becomes 9. And of course, if you square 3 minus y, you get 9 minus 6y plus y squared. You see, in doing that, people, you guarantee 2 roots and not 1. Then add your like terms. Take out y as a common factor, and now you get y equals to 0 or y equals to 6. And if you test your answers in the original equation like you should do all the time, especially dealing with square roots, you'll notice that y equals to 6 is not going to work. So therefore the answer is therefore x equals to 2 or y equals to 0. Right, 1.4, the nature of the roots. You must calculate two numerical values for p, so that x squared plus p into 2x plus 7 plus 8 is a perfect square. Now, when is any expression a perfect square? Is when delta is equal to 0. So therefore, we need to look at delta. Which is delta again? B squared minus 4ac. But to use delta, I need to identify a, b, and c. Now, I can't do it yet. I first need to remove the brackets, so p into 2x plus 7, and now we can identify exactly what is a, what is b, and what is c. So a is then a 1, b is the 2p, and c is 7p plus 8. So do that into delta, right? Remove the brackets, simplify, equals to 0, don't forget, then factorize, and you get p equals to 8 or p equals to -1. Thank you for watching Mathematics with Suleiman. Please don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. Remember, subscription is free, and with your subscription, it can help me and encourage me to do more videos. Welcome to Mathematics with Suleiman, and yes, we are looking at last year's prelim paper of Gauteng 2025, and now today we're going to discuss quadratic patterns, which of course is question 2. And of course in quadratic patterns you can see we have numeric patterns, we have patterns where we use figures, we have how to identify a quadratic pattern, graphs of a quadratic pattern, the general form, Tn equals to an squared plus bn plus c, etc., etc. Right? Preparatory examination of Gauteng 2025, paper 1, question 1. Question 2, the following sequence of numbers form a quadratic number pattern. -3, -2, -3, -6, -11. 2.1. The first difference of the given sequence also form a sequence. Determine the expression for the nth term of the first difference. Now remember how to get first difference is always the second term minus the first term. So it's -2 minus a -3 is a +1. Then you have -3 minus a -2 becomes a -1. Then you got -6 minus a -3 gives you a -3. Then of course -11 minus a -6 is -5. So therefore A is the first term, which is 1. D is the common difference. Remember it is -1 minus a +2, which is -2. Then of course it is arithmetic, so therefore Tn equals to A plus n minus 1d. So therefore A is 1 and of course D is -2. Remove the brackets and you get the Tn equals to -2 plus 3. Then 2.2, calculate the first difference between the 35th and the 36th term of the quadratic sequence. So now already we know that Tn equals to -2n plus 3. So just replace n with the 35 and that should give you -67. And 2.3, now we must determine an expression for the nth term of that first given quadratic sequence. So remember the sequence was -3, -2, again -3, -6, -11. So the first difference, you remember we already done it previously, is +1, -1, -3, -5. And then the second difference will be -2 throughout. So that is already a proof that it is quadratic. So we must write in the form Tn equals to an squared plus bn plus c. But already we know the formulas that 2a equals to -2. So therefore a is -1. And then of course we can say T1, which replace T1. So n with a 1 and then you can get 1 squared with a negative outside plus b times 1 plus c gives you -3 equals to -1 plus b plus c. So -2 is then b plus c. You can call that equation 1. Then term 2 is negative. Now replace n with a 2. Then you get 2 squared plus b times 2 plus c. So therefore -2 is then -4 plus 2b plus c. So therefore 2 equals to 2b plus c. Call it equation 2. And now we can do it simultaneously. Equation 2 minus equation 1. And that gives you, therefore b equals to 4. You will notice what the -2's will cancel and the c's will cancel. So therefore we have now a value for b. So now we got a and now we got b and now we can find c. Well, c you can just substitute a and b into any of the equations and you'll get c equals to -6. So therefore the final answer is then Tn equals to -n squared plus 4n minus 6. Point 4, which is basically your level 3 of level 4 examples where you have to think. Explain why the sequence will never contain a positive term. So remember that is a quadratic equation which is done previously. So if I take out -1 as a common factor, then I'll get positive n squared, I'll get -4 and I got positive 6. Then what I do is I complete the square. You remember the formula b over 2 all squared. Right, we've done it in algebra. So then you get a +4. Then again, don't forget to minus the 4 because you're not allowed to add anything. and then you factorize the first three terms, which will be a perfect square. Remember, we just done completing the square. So therefore, n minus 2 squared plus 2. Then multiply the negative back into the equation. You get negative bracket n minus 2 squared minus 2. So the maximum Tn is then negative 2. And that is a proof that there's no positive terms. Or what you can do is you can say the turning point of the maximum quadratic function is 2 and minus 2. Remember, that comes from that formula, minus n minus 2 all squared minus 2. It comes from there. So no values above the x-axis, hence no positive values. Okay. Thank you for watching Mathematics with Suleiman. Please don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. Remember, subscription is free, and with your subscription, it can help me and encourage me to do more videos. Welcome to Mathematics with Suleiman. This is now the third installment of the prelim paper of last year, 2025, for grade 12s. And question 3 will deal with sequences and series. Preparatory examination 2025 of Gauteng province, and today's discussion will be paper 1, question 3 on sequence and series. In the question 3.1, the graphic below shows a dartboard from which patterns relevant to the different circles can be derived. Now, the radii of the largest circle and then moving consecutively to the immediate inward circles is given by 18 centimeters, 6 times the square root of 3 centimeters, and 6 centimeters. The innermost circle has a radius of 2/3 centimeters. 3.11, show that the areas of the circles form a converging geometric series. Now remember, the first radius, or the largest one, was given as 18 centimeters. The second circle was 6 times 3 square root of 3 centimeters, and the third one was 6 centimeters. So if you work out the area of each of those circles using the formula pi r squared, you'll get area of circle 1 is 324 pi. Circle 2 will be 108 pi, and circle 3 will be 36 pi. Remember now, we use the area formula pi r squared. Then, if we test now, term 2 divided by term 1, you get 1/3, and the same with term 3 divided by term 2, you also get 1/3. So there you are. That means that there is a common ratio of 1/3. And if a common ratio lies between -1 and +1, we know that it is converging. Question 3.1.2, calculate the number of circles in the sequence forming the dartboard. So again, remember, the three terms are 18, 6 times square root 3, and 6. And if I work out the R for this sequence, it will be 1 over square root 3. Remember, it's term 2 divided by term 1, and that gives you 1 over square root 3. Then, of course, it's geometric, so we use the formula Tn equals to AR to the power n minus 1. Then we do our substitution, right? So it's 2/3 equals to 18, right? Times 1 over square root 3 to the power n minus 1. And of course, next we can, of course, divide by 18 on both sides to get rid of the 18. Then the next step, we multiply in, or rather we take square root 3 up, where square root 3 is 3 to the power a half. If you take it up to the 1, becomes 3 to the power negative a half. Just remember your exponential laws there. Then, of course, you multiply a half, negative a half with n, and negative a half with minus 1. And then you get 3 to the power minus 3 equals to 3 to the power minus a half n plus a half. Then, of course, you simplify, and you will get n equals to 7. 3.2, which is a slightly more challenging example. This is your level 3, level 4 example, where the given series is 1 times 2 in brackets plus 5 times 6 in brackets plus 9 times 10 in brackets times 13 times 4 in brackets times 81 times 82. Remember, you must see this as actually two series in one. Like if you look at all the first numbers of each bracket, like 1, 5, 9, 13, 81, they form a sequence. And then the second number in the brackets, 2, 6, 10, 14, 82, they form their own series. So please bear in mind when we solve this problem. Remember, you must write this in sigma notation. And we all remember what we mean by that. So if you look at the first numbers in each bracket, 1, 5, 9, 13, 81, it forms an arithmetic sequence where A is 1 and D is 4. So if I use a formula for arithmetic, Tn equals to A plus n minus 1D, I will get eventually Tn equals to 4n minus 3. Remember, I need to do this because I need to complete sigma notation. If you look at the answer in the bottom, you will see where we write the 4n minus 3. Then the number of terms, of course, will be 81, because if you look at the last term there in the last bracket, it is 81. So therefore 4n minus 6 is 81. So therefore n is 21. Remember, we need n in our sigma. Now we're done with that. Now we look at the second terms of each bracket, 2, 6, 10, 14, 82. And there we do the same. So we also use Tn, and of course we just for 4n minus 3, but we have to add 1, because remember there's an extra of one more term, so don't forget that, and that gives you 4n minus 2. So therefore sigma n starts by 1 and ends in 21, and the common terms will be bracket 4n minus 3, bracket 4n minus 2. Yes, I agree, a bit of a challenging one, not that straightforward. 3.3, now in this series A plus AR plus AR squared plus and so forth, the sum to infinity is 1. In the series where the terms are the squares of the above series, the sum to infinity is 5 over 6. You must determine the common ratio. Also a challenging example, levels 3 and level 4. So A plus AR squared equals to 1. Let's call that equation 1. Then the other one is the square. So therefore A squared R squared plus A squared R plus equals to 5 over 6. That is now the second given information. So we call that equation 2. Now they say sum to infinity, so therefore A over 1 minus R equals to 1. That's the first one. Cross multiply and you get A equals to 1 minus R, and we call it equation 3. Then for the squared one, sum to infinity will be A squared over 1 minus R squared equals to 5 over 6. Remember, it's squared, don't forget that. Cross multiply and you get 6a squared equals to 5 minus 5r squared. And that gives you equation 4. So now we're dealing with 4 equations. So what you do is substitute equation 3 into equation 4. Once you've done that, you'll get 6 into 1 minus r squared equals to 5 minus 5r squared. So the rest now is just algebra. Remove the brackets, rearrange your terms into a quadratic trinomial, factorize, and then you get r equals to 1 over 11 or r equals to 1. But of course, r equals to 1 is not applicable. Remember, it is sum to infinity. For sum to infinity, r got to be a fraction, don't forget. So therefore, we only accept r equals to 1 over 11. Yes, I must agree yet again, not that straightforward, but challenging. Thank you for watching Mathematics with Suleiman. Please don't forget to share, like and subscribe. Remember, subscription is free, and with your subscription, it can help me and encourage me to do more videos. Welcome to Mathematics with Suleiman, and we are currently discussing the prelim mathematics paper of 2025. of the Gauteng province. And today we're going to discuss the question on the hyperbola, namely question 4. Preliminary Examination 2025 of Gauteng, Paper 1, Question 4. The graphs of the functions, the f of x equals to a over x plus p plus q, which is hyperbola of course, and the h of s equals to mx plus c, which is a straight line or linear graph, are presented in the sketch. So just have a good look at the sketch, especially the so-called dotted lines. They are then the asymptotes of the hyperbola. So take note, where is the x1? It's on -2. The y1 is at -1. And of course, there's also a given point on the hyperbola, the bottom arm, -4 and -5 over 2. So that information is very important to be able to answer the questions. So question 4.1, write down the values of P and Q, and of course they are referring to P and Q in the formula of the hyperbola. So obviously you need to know what does P represent. P will represent then the so-called X values with the opposite sign. Please take note. So therefore P is a positive 2 and not negative. And then the Q will be, of course, the Y asymptote. It will be SEs, namely Q equals to -1. Question 4.3, you must write down the range of f, and in 4.2, you must calculate the value of small letter a. So what you do is then, small letter a is then part of the hyperbola, not a straight line. So you start off with a formula of the hyperbola and replace what is given. Remember, we have that given point, -4 and -5 over 2. So we're going to use that point and substitute into that given formula for the hyperbola, and then simplify, and you'll get a equals to 3. And then of course the range of f, remember a range is always linked to a y value. That means a vertical value. So of course the hyperbola, which is f, runs then vertically all along except at the asymptote y equals to -1. So therefore y an element of the real values except y equals to -1. 4.4, determine the equation of the line of symmetry of f for m less than 0 in the form. Be careful, there's two things there now. You must look at an m, which means a gradient, which is negative. And then you must also present the answer in the form y equals to, of course, mx plus c, because it is a straight line graph. But be careful now, they don't want the asymptote of the line mx plus c that was given. No, they want the asymptote that runs in the opposite direction. So remember, the asymptote will run through the point where the two dotted lines meet. That means where x is -2 and y is -1 and m is -1 then. So use all that information. You can use the formula you've learned there in analytical geometry. Y minus -1 equals to -1, x minus a -2. So make sure you know where the y -1 comes from, the y-intercept, the y asymptote. Where's the other -1 coming from? That is the gradient, what was prescribed to you. And of course, the gradient of -1 comes from 45-degree angle, isn't it? Because the tan of 45 is 1, if you remember that. And then, of course, the -2 of the x comes also from the asymptote. Remove the brackets, and your answer is then y equals to -x, -3. Question 4.5, write down the equation of the asymptotes of the f of x plus 4.5. Now they're referring to the x asymptote. Now what does x plus 4.5 means? It means that the asymptote must move 4.5 spaces to the left. We also learned that when we done trig graphs, do you remember? So remember, x plus 4.5 actually means 4.5 shift to the left. So x is already -2 on the sketch. So therefore you must add another 4.5 to -2, and that gives you then -6.5. And of course, y didn't change. Y still remains -1. Thank you for watching Mathematics with Suleiman. Please don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. Remember, subscription is free, and with your subscription, it can help me and encourage me to do more videos. Mathematics with Suleiman, and we are currently discussing 2025 Gauteng prelim paper. So this is a continuation, and today we are doing question 5, which deals mostly with the parabola, linear graphs, and also logarithmic graphs. Para 3 examination 2025 of Gauteng province, paper 1, question 5. Question 5. Given are the following three functions: the f of x equals to 2x squared minus x minus 15, the g of x equals to 3x minus 9 over 2, and the h of x equals to the log of base a third x. The first one, of course, is your parabola or your quadratic function. The second one is your linear or straight line function. And the last one is your logarithmic function, which of course is the inverse of the exponential graph, if you remember. 5.1, write down the coordinates of the turning point of f. Now in grade 11 you've learned a method where to find the x value we used negative b over 2a, and of course for the y coordinate we use negative delta over 4a. But in grade 12 we expect you to use calculus. So you take your quadratic function and you differentiate it, and equals to 0. And then you get x equals to a quarter. Then you substitute a quarter into the original equation, and you should get negative 121 over 8. This doesn't take long, people. Take those only 2 marks. And this is calculator work, so this shouldn't take long. So the final answer, therefore, is a quarter, negative 121 over 8. In 5.2, show the x-coordinates of the x-intercepts of f are negative 5 over 2 and 3 respectively. So be careful, people. If they give you the answers, don't assume that it's correct. So you must try and calculate it from scratch again, and then check, do you get the same answers? So 5.2, x-intercept, of course you must remember that x-intercepts are on the x-axis where y is 0. So therefore you must let the function be equals to 0. Then factorize or use the formula if you prefer, and then you get your minus 5 over 2 or your x equals to 3. Question 5.3, now they want you to sketch all 3 graphs. You must sketch graph of f, g, and h. Clearly label all the intercepts with the x's and the asymptotes where necessary. Now to sketch the first one, the f of x, shouldn't be a problem because you already got the 2 roots, the negative 5 over 2 and the 3. You already got the y-intercept, which is negative 15, and you already got the turning point. And of course, the a value is positive, so it's a graph with a minimum turning point. So to sketch the parabola should not be a challenge. Then to sketch the straight line, you got 9 over 2, which is the y-intercept, so that you can already show. And 3 over 1, of course, is your gradient. So you can also do that. Or what you can do is you can just work out if you find the x-intercept, just make y 0. So clear, people, and that's how you can get the x-intercept. And it's also a graph in a north easterly direction because the gradient is positive. Then the logarithmic graph, you need to remember, is the inverse of the exponential graph. So you need to first maybe start there, if you have. But what you can also do is, again, to find x-intercepts, you can make y 0 and then solve it, and so forth. But please be careful with the log graph when you sketch it. I suggest you first write that log equation into the exponential formula, then sketch that graph. But take note the base is a fraction, so it should be a graph, a decreasing graph, so that don't forget that. Okay, so please be careful when you do that. And look at the mark allocation. You get 1 mark for x and y intercepts, 1 mark for shape, it's for the graph of f. Then for the graph of g, you get a y-intercept and a positive gradient. For the graph of h, you get the shape, and of course, the asymptote. Right, 5.4, if point H is a point on G, which of course is a straight line, and R is on the F, which is the parabola, such that the abscissa of both points is 4. Now, by abscissa, we mean both points intercept the x-axis. So they both share the same 4. Right. Now, to find distance between 2 points, you normally subtract the 2 graphs from each other. So it's the f of x minus the g of x. And then substitute f's formula into the f of x and the g's formula into the g of x. Be careful with minus g of x, both signs will change. Then simplify, and then because the abscissa is 4, you can replace x with 4, and then you get the distance of HR is 5.5. Question 5.5, write down the domain of the inverse of h. Now be careful now, h is logarithmic, so the inverse will be the exponential graph. Remember I told you earlier on, exponential graph with a decreasing function. And if you can picture that, then you will remember it is a graph that its domain will be all the x values. Definitely, there's no restriction when it comes to that graph. Then the range of h inverse. Now, again, look where is h, and h inverse, it's the same graph we just spoke about now, but now it will be, y will be all the real values, but remember the asymptote is y equals to 0, so therefore it's got to be greater than 0. 5.6, determine the value or values of k if the roots 2x squared minus x plus k equals to 0 are equal. Now, first of all, what does k represent? The y-intercept. So the current graph, what is the y-intercept? Negative 15. Now, for roots to be equal, the graph cannot cut the x-axis at 2 places. It can only touch the x-axis at 1 place. So that means that 15 y-intercept got to move up 15 1/8 times. Right, so therefore the new y-intercept will be 1/8. And that makes also k 1/8. The last question here, 5.7, determine the maximum value of the g of x minus the f of x. Now they want the maximum value, so you have to bear that in mind. But don't confuse this now with calculus. So first find the g of x minus the f of x. Write it down. So it is a straight line minus a parabola. So it's 3x minus 4.5 minus 2x squared plus x plus 15. Remember, the signs must change of the quadratic equation. Then you get another quadratic equation minus 2x squared plus 4x plus 10.5. But now you must remember, for a maximum value, you remember you use the grade 11 method for turning point minus delta over 4a. Now we're using the grade 11 values minus delta over 4a. So remember now a is minus 2, b is 4, and c is 10.5. Do your substitution, and then you get the maximum value is 12.5 units. Thank you for watching Mathematics with Suleiman. Please don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. Remember, subscription is free, and with your subscription, it can help me and encourage me to do more videos. To Mathematics with Suleiman, and I'm still busy discussing Gauteng grade 12 2025 prelim paper, and this is now the next question on exponential functions. Preparatory examination 2025 of Gauteng, paper 1, question 6. Right, question 6.1, given is the f of x equals to 3 to the power x. Now you must determine the equation for its inverse in the form inverse of f of x equals to. Now remember, step 1 is to interchange x and y. So where you have x, you write y, and where you have y, you write x. Then step 2, solve for y. In other words, make y the subject, and the only way we can do it is to write it in logarithmic form. So therefore, y equals to log of x base 3. So therefore, the inverse function is then f to the power minus 1, or you can say f inverse of x equals to the log of x base 3. These are the properties of the inverse. Given is the f of s equals to 3 to the power x. Now 6.2, sketch the graph of f and its inverse. Clearly show all intercepts with the axis. Now remember now, if you look at the drawing on the right hand side, you will notice that whatever you see on the left hand side with the graph of y equals 3x, and on the right hand side the graph of y equals to log base 3x, you'll notice that all the points are exactly the inverse. Take the point, for instance, -2 and 1/9. Then on the graph on the right hand side, it becomes 1/9 -2. So they just interchange. Take the other point, -1 and 1/3. Then on the right hand side, it is 1/3 and -1. So it is exactly the inverse, and therefore that is what I recommend. Maybe the easiest way to sketch a graph and its inverse. Right, question 6.3, write down the equation of the line of y, of the line of symmetry between the two graphs. Now, if you see, I've done it there in a dark line. So it is the line y equals to x, and it always runs through the center in this case, and it is a line at an angle of 45 degrees. Then 6.4, which is a bit of a challenging example, level 3, level 4, for which values of x will the f of x times its inverse be less than or equals to 0? Now, since the base 3 is greater than 1, the logarithmic function is increasing. That means log x base 3 is less than or equal to 0. And it is the equivalent to x less than or equals to 3 to the power 0, which is equals to 1. So combining this with the domain x greater than 0, then you'll see on the number line I've showed you where the two coincide and where you see the double dotted line. So therefore x is then greater than 0, less than or equals to 1. Question 6.5, you must write down the range of the h of x equals to 3 to the power negative x minus 4. Now if you sketch that graph, as you can see in my diagram, then you will notice that the asymptote, the dotted line, lies y equals to -4. Now the range will be any y value above or greater. So therefore the range is y greater than -4. Question 6.6, a bit of a difficult one. I would say level 3 or 4, where you must write down an equation for g. Now g is a new graph now, right? If the graph of g is the image of the graph of f, very important, the image of the graph of f, after f has been translated 2 units to the right and reflected about the x-axis. 2 units to the right, that explains why we say in brackets x minus 2. Remember, opposite direction, opposite sign. So, and of course, reflected about the x-axis, you put a negative in front of f. And that gives you then -3 to the power x minus 2. If you have a look at that drawing, it also explains you exactly how the blue graph was translated to the red graph. Not that easy, I know. Thank you for watching Mathematics with Suleiman. Please don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. Remember, subscription is free, and with your subscription, it can help me and encourage me to do more videos. To Mathematics with Suleiman, and in this video we are going to do the question on financial mathematics, and in particular for grade 12's annuities. So this comes from the 2025 prelim paper. Province Preparatory Examination 2025, Paper 1, Question 7. Point 1. A business buys a machine that costs 120,000 rand. The value of the machine depreciates at 9% per annum according to the diminishing balance method. Now there's a hint in what they're saying there. If they say depreciate, then you must remember it is a formula with the negative. And if they say diminishing balance, then this should remind you of compound interest, what you've learned in grade 11. So the first question, 7.11, determine the scrap value of the machine at the end of 5 years. So scrap value, and remember, the value is depreciating, so therefore you choose the formula A equals to P into 1 minus I to the power of N. So you do your substitution. Remember, how do we derive I? I is always 9% divided by 100, and that gives us 0,09. Of course, all of this is calculator work, and you should get the answer of 77,483 and 86 cents. 2. After 5 years, the machine needs to be replaced. During this time, inflation remained constant at 7% per annum. Determine the cost of a new machine at the end of 5 years. So this is now not depreciation, this is appreciation. So therefore the formula with the plus. So therefore A equals to P into 1 plus I to the power of N. Do your substitution. Again, remember where is 0,07 coming from, and then you get your final answer of 168,306 rand and 21 cents. Point 1.3. Now the business estimates that it will need approximately 90,000 rand by the end of 5 years. Now a sinking fund for approximately 90,000 into which equal monthly installments will be paid is set up. Interest on this fund is 8.5% per annum, compounded monthly. Now, the minute you see that, now you must think of future value or annuities, isn't it? So the first payment will be made immediately. This is also very important. Take note of that. And the last payment will be made at the end of 5 years. Calculate the value of the monthly payments into the sinking fund. Now, you remember from question 7.11 and question 7.12, we determined the first value of 168,306 rand and 21 cents. So we have to subtract the answer we got from 7.1.2, which was 74,883 rand and 86 cents. And that gives you 93,422 rand and 35 cents. So this sinking fund is very close to the 90,000 rand. So therefore we choose a future value formula. And why? How do we know that? Because they said it was compounded monthly. So we choose the formula of future value, right? Not present value. So therefore the formula you should remember is x into x plus I to the power n minus 1 over I. Now where is that n plus 1 coming from? Remember they said the first payment will be made immediately. So that means it's an extra month you must add. Right. So 5 years will give you 60 months, but now it will have to be 61 months because you pay immediately. So please don't forget it. And that is equal to 90,000 rand. Do your substitution. Do your calculations using the calculator. That shouldn't be difficult. And then you get the answer of 1,184 rand and 68 cents. Point 2, Kasala receives an amount of 900,000 upon her retirement. She invests this amount immediately at an interest rate of 10.5% per annum. compounded monthly. Already there's a hint, compounded monthly, so this must be annuity. She needs an amount of 18,000 per month to maintain her current lifestyle and plans to withdraw the first amount at the end of the month. So therefore, N will remain N, isn't it? For how many months will she be able to live off her investment? So if they ask for time, then you should know this will involve N, and of course it will involve logs. When that bell should ring in your head immediately. And of course now it is present value, because we want the money now, isn't it? So therefore, the formula for present value, x into 1 minus 1 plus I to the power negative n, don't forget now, over I equals to 90,000. So, 900,000. Right, so do your substitutions. Again, remember, where's I coming from? And of course, remember, it's monthly, so it's always divided by 12. Don't forget that. And remember, N must be solved. So there's different ways to simplify this problem. A lot of people choose different methods of solving, but at the end of the day, you need to make N the subject. So you need to figure out how you're going to make N the subject, where you can eventually use your logs in the last second last step, where you introduce logs, because remember, logs is the only way you can make N the subject. And then you'll get N equals to 66,043, which of course you can round off. So we will accept 66 or even 67 months. Okay, just one more reminder. Remember, to round off too soon is going to influence your answer. So please avoid premature rounding. And that's why you will see all the values were the same throughout. Remember now, do not round off too soon. Thank you for watching Mathematics with Suleiman. Please don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. Remember, subscription is free, and with your subscription, it can help me and encourage me to do more videos. Welcome to Mathematics with Suleiman. I am still currently discussing the prelim paper of 2025 of Gauteng, and this installment will be on calculus or differentiation in calculus, and of course this is question 8. Preparatory Examination 2025, Paper 1, Question 8 on Calculus. Right, question 8.1, given is that the f of x is equal to negative 2x squared plus 1. Now you must determine the derivative, or f prime x just means derivative, but from first principles. Now the minute you see the word first principles, you should know that you must use the formula f prime x equals to the limit as h approach 0 of the f of x plus h minus the f of x over h. That is first principles. Of course, you can always use the rules later on to check whether your answers are correct. So then we do the substitution. Now please be careful. The most common mistakes here made by students is that the very first step, when they do the substitution. Now remember, you must follow the formula. If the formula says the f of x plus h, then your x in the given formula must be replaced by x plus h. And don't forget plus 1. then the minus, and then the next step is replace now x with itself. That means the minus 2x squared plus 1 will remain like that. The only difference is there's a negative in front. That is where you should be very careful, people, because if you make a mistake here, the entire problem is going to be incorrect. So the rest is just algebra, where you just remove the brackets, collect your like terms until you get to the third last step, where you must take out h as a common factor. Now remember, this will always happen. H will always be a common factor for the simple reason that h must cancel. Because remember, division by 0 is not allowed. So people, if you don't get to that step, then you must know I must go back because you've made a mistake somewhere along the way. So please remember that. Then of course the limit as h approaches 0 of minus 4x minus 2h will then be negative 4x. Right, 8.12. Hence, calculate the gradient of the tangent to f at x equals to negative half. What do we mean by hence? It means use the previous. Now already we know the derivative is negative 4x. Now remember, what is derivative? Derivative is actually gradient at a point. In this case, the point is negative a half. So therefore, you take the negative 4x, replace x with negative a half, and you get the answer is 2. So the gradient is therefore 2. Question 8.2, determine the derivative of the f of x equals to the cube root of x squared plus 1 over 4x to the power of 4. Now you don't have to use first principles anymore. You can use the rules of differentiation. Now there's things you must remember here. Before you differentiate, you must always try to get rid of all the surds, like the square roots and the cube roots. Remove them. Secondly, if there's a fraction involved, also try to change that whole situation, especially if your variable is in the denominator. So those are the two things you must always do before you attempt to differentiate. So let's see. So the cube root of x squared, you remember that the rule in grade 11 is x to the power 2/3. Remember, the exponent of the variable over the root, so it is 2/3. Then a 1 over 4 to the power x minus 4, remember that it is a quarter, and only x to the power 4 must go up. And you remember your exponential laws, becomes x to the power minus 4. Right, so now you've set the scene, and now you can differentiate. And now only can you say f prime x. Right, then of course you know the rules now. 2/3 times the 1 in front of x, and then subtract 1 from 2/3. The same with the next one, negative 4 times a quarter, and subtract 1 from negative 4. And the answer will be 2/3 x to the power negative 1/3 minus x to the power negative 5. There's no need to show the 1. You can leave it out. Question 8.3, a very interesting question actually, but it's also level 3, level 4. So given that the h of x is equal to ax squared, and of course a must be positive, a must be greater than 0. Determine the value of a if it is given that the inverse, be careful now, that is not derivative, that's the inverse of h of 8 equals to the derivative of h at 4. So don't confuse the two now. Here we have the inverse of h at the point 8, x equals to 8, equals to the derivative of h at the point x equals to 4. So, excuse me. So the h of x is therefore ax squared, and we must now differentiate ax squared. You remember the rules? So it's 2 times a and subtract 1 from the 2. So it's 2ax. Then the derivative of h at 4, replace x with 4, and you get derivative of h at 4 is then 8a. So we have that first equation now. Then the inverse, remember how do we do inverses? x becomes y and y becomes x. So you switch the x and y values. Do that first, and then again make y the subject. So you get the square root of x over a, and we say positive, right? And then only are we going to now, okay, before we do that, so then we replace x with the 8, because remember inverse deals with 8. Right, and now you can equate the two equations. Remember, they say they are equal. So therefore, 8a is then equals to the square root of 8 over a. Then the rest will be algebra. Square on both sides to get rid of the square root. Then you get 8a over 64a squared. Then, of course, try to make a the subject. And then you end up with a cubed equals to 1/8. Then, of course, the cube root of 1/8 is a half. Thank you for watching Mathematics with Suleiman. Please don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. Remember, subscription is free, and with your subscription, it can help me and encourage me to do more videos. Welcome to Mathematics with Suleiman. I'm still discussing the Gauteng 2025 prelim paper, and in this installment I am going to discuss questions 9 and 10, also based on calculus. Right, preparatory examination 2025, paper 1, questions 9 and 10. 9, given is a cubic graph for the function of negative 2x cubed plus ax squared plus bx plus c, and that it is sketched below. Now the following properties of f are given below. So point A is given as 1 and 0 as a stationary point. Point B is given as 4 and 0 as an x-intercept. Point P is a point of inflection. Point C is the turning point, and point D is the y-intercept. Remember, point A is also a turning point. Question 9.1. You must show that A is 12, B is negative 18, and C is 8. Now again, these questions are very tricky. People, if they give you the values, don't assume that they are correct. You must just prove. Now, normally they do this because the follow-up question, then you will have to use the given A, B, and C, if you perhaps made a mistake in 9.1. So please remember that. So we are going to use the formula where the x-intercepts are given. That is the method we're going to use here. So therefore, we start with y equals to negative 2. Now the negative 2 comes from the negative 2x cubed, which was given in the formula. Right. So, and of course, then we go to the point A. So the x value there is a positive 1. The positive 1 comes from x minus 1, and normally a turning point, or where a graph just touches the x-axis, we know there are two possible answers or roots which are equal. So therefore it comes from x minus 1 squared. Remember, two possible equal roots. Then the other x-intercept is at point B. That is a positive 4. So it comes from x minus 4. So I hope that is now clear where that is coming from. Then the rest, people, is just getting rid of the brackets until you write it in the form y equals to negative 2x cubed minus 12x squared minus 18x plus 8. And now you can see that A is 12, B is minus 18, and C is 8. Question 9.2, Kusal states that a tangent to the curve of f can be drawn through points C and D. Just look, where is C and D? Validate the statement using an appropriate calculation. Now remember, people, you must immediately remember that tangent in calculus also means derivative, or the point at the tangent. That is 1 point, so that is usually derivative. So therefore, you're going to take the function which you now have completed and differentiate f. And you get negative 6x squared plus 24x minus 18. And of course, you can simplify that. Remember now, at the turning point, or at the tangent, not turning point, at the tangent, the derivative is 0. So therefore, x squared minus 4x plus 3 equals to 0. Factorize, then therefore x is 1 or x is 3. But of course, if you test the f of 3 into the equation, you will get 8. So therefore, the tangent passes through points C and D. In 3, points A, P, and B are joined to form triangle APB as indicated in the sketch. You must calculate the area of triangle APB. Remember, to find area of a triangle, you've learned the method in trigonometry, which will only work if you got angles, or you can use the formula a half base times height. So we already got the base between points A and B will be the base, right? So we just need to find the height. Now the height can run from point P, perpendicular to AB. So that means I must first find P's x value. And remember now, given was that P is the point of inflection. Now you remember, a point of inflection is derived from second derivative. So therefore we need to find the second derivative, which is negative 12x plus 24. And let that be equals to 0, right? So then if you solve that, you will get x equals to 2. So the x value of P is equals to 2. So to find the height then, we must substitute 2 into the original formula, the f of x, minus 2x cubed plus 12x squared minus 18x plus 8. Put 2 in there, and then you'll get a 4. And that will serve as your perpendicular height. So therefore, area is then a half times 3 times 4, which is, of course is 6 units squared. Question 9.4, for which values of x is f concave down? Now remember, for concave down, people, the second derivative must be less than 0. So therefore, negative 12x plus 24 is less than 0. Simplify, and you get x greater than 2. 9.5, write down the values of x for which f is strictly increasing. Remember, if a graph is increasing, it must run from left to right. So it runs from point A to point C. So therefore, x must be between 1 and 3. Right. Question 9.6, write down the coordinates or the turning points of the h of x equals to the f of x minus 3. Now the minute you see something like this, you need to know that something happened to the original f of x. Right, so that you must bear in mind. So there will be a shift, and you need to figure out what is this shift. Right. But before we can do that, we must first find the turning points. So you do your normal thing, you differentiate, right? Simplify, let the derivative be equal to 0, and then you factorize, and you get x1 and x3. So those are the two x values of the turning point. Then you find the two corresponding y values. You remember how? Substitute into the original function. Then you get a 0 and an 8. So therefore the turning points will be 1 and 0, 3 and 8. Now we're going to apply the f of x minus 3. Now what does it mean? It means the graph shifts 3 units down. So therefore, if you take the first turning point 1 and 0, it will become 1 and negative 3. And if you take the second turning point 3 and 8, it will become 3 and 5. So therefore, the final answer will be 1 and minus 3, 3 and 5. Right, question 10. A metal box without a top is to be constructed from a square metal sheet with sides of 20 centimeters by cutting square pieces of equal sizes from the corners of the sheet and then folding up the sides. Calculate the dimensions of the box with the largest volume that can be constructed in this manner. So if you make a drawing of the metal sheet, then you will see exactly that if the length is 20 and the width is 20, then we need to subtract 2x. Because remember, those squares, corners are going to be cut out, right? And then, of course, the height of the box will be x. So, therefore, the dimension of the box is 20 minus 2x by 20 minus 2x by x, which means the base is a square. So, to find the volume, then, you remember, is length times breadth times height. So, it will be x times 20 minus 2x times another 20 minus 2x. Right, remove the brackets and then of course differentiate, because remember they said a largest volume. So for a largest volume we need to maximize, so therefore we need to find the derivative and let the derivative be equal to 0. Simplify and then of course factorize, and then you get x 10 over 3 or x equals to 10. So those are the two x components. Oh, sorry, the two x values. Right, so now we have two x values and we have to decide which one is going to work. So therefore, if you find the second derivative, it will give you minus 160 plus 24x. If you first test 10 over 3, you will get that minus 160 plus 80 will give you something less than 0. If I use 10, I'll get something greater than 0. So therefore, I need to use 10. So therefore the dimensions will then be 10 over 3 by 40 over 3 by 40 over 3. Thank you for watching Mathematics with Suleiman. Please don't forget to share, like and subscribe. Remember, subscription is free, and with your subscription it can help me and encourage me to do more videos. Welcome to Mathematics with Suleiman, and I am currently still discussing paper 1 of the Gauteng prelim paper of 2025, and today we're doing the last question, question 11 on probability and counting principles. Preparatory examination 2025, paper 1, question 11. Question 11.1, a six-sided die is rolled and the number of dots landing face up is noted. Consider the following events. Event A, the number observed is 2 at the most. Event B, the number that landed face up is an even number. And event C, the number 6 is facing up. Let's first start with the probability of A. Remember, the number observed is 2. So it will be 2 out of 6, which of course is 1/3. Event B, the number that then up is an even number. Remember, on any die, there's an even amount of odd numbers and even numbers. Because there's 6 in total, so it will be 3 out of 6, which of course is a half. 11.2 or 11.1.2, use the probability of A, which we determined previously, which is 1/3 if you remember, and determine the complement, the probability of the complement of A. Now remember, there's a formula for the complement of A. It will be 1 minus the probability of A. Remember, probability always add up to 1, and the complement is what is left. So therefore, complement will be 1 minus the probability of A. So therefore, 1 minus 1/3, which of course is 2/3. 11.1.3, are the events mutually exclusive? Give a reason for your answer. Now remember people, let me just remind you, two events are mutually exclusive if they cannot happen at the same time. So in other words, they have no outcomes in common. For example, rolling a die. Let's say event A is getting an even number, so it will be 2, 4, 6. Let's say event B is getting an odd number, 1, 3, 5. Now you can see they have nothing in common, so therefore they are mutually exclusive. Or you remember the formula, the probability of A or B is the probability of A plus the probability of B. So therefore in our example, A is 1 and 2, B is 2, 4, 6, and C is 6. So A and B share a 2, B and C share a 6. So therefore they do have numbers in common. So therefore the answer is no. They are not mutually exclusive. Point 1.4, calculate the probability of A or C. Now remember the formula for A or C is equal to probability of A plus probability of C, because remember they are mutually exclusive. Now remember previously we've determined that probability of A is 2 over 6 and probability of C is 1 over 6. So therefore 2 over 6 plus 1 over 6 is 3 over 6. So therefore the probability of A or C is a half. 11.1.5, are B and C independent events? Give a reason for your answer. Now the probability of B times the probability of C is a half times a 6, which is 1 over 12, right? But probability of B's intersection with C is 1/6. Therefore, the probability of B intersection with C is not equal to the probability of B times the probability of C. So therefore, B and C are not independent events. If we know that a 6 has been rolled, then we know with certainty that an even number has been rolled. Therefore, the occurrence of C affects the probability of B. 11.2, the probability of getting the first answer in a quiz correct is 0.6. Now, if the first answer is correct, the probability of getting the next answer correct rises to 0.7. However, if the first answer is incorrect, the probability of getting the next answer correct is 0.4. So with the use of a tree diagram, determine the probability of getting the second answer correct. So in the diagram, C is for correct answers, W for wrong. So the first branches will be 0.6 and 0.4. Take note, if we add them, you must get a 1. Don't forget. Then it rises to, so correct answer rises to 0.7. So therefore the wrong answer will be 0.3. Again, they must add up to 1. And if the wrong answer is 0.4, then the correct answer will be 0.6. Remember again, they must add up to 1. So therefore the probability of second answers correct will be then be, if you follow the branches, 0.6 times 0.7 plus, and the bottom, remember we follow correct answers, 0.4 times 0.4. You must follow the C, remember? Right. And if you do all of that, you'll get 0.58. 11.3, this question is on the counting principles. Now the discus cage on an athletics field must be moved to a different position. 5 boys from a group of 15 boys must be selected to perform this task. How many different groups of 5 boys can be selected? Now since we are selecting 5 boys from 15 and the order in which they are selected does not matter, we use then the combination, 15 boys, combination of 5, will give you then 15 factorial divided by 5 factorial into 15 minus 5 factorial. That gives you then 15 factorial divided by 5 factorial times 10 factorial. So you cancel the 10 factorial, right? So then you end up with 15 times 14 times 13 times 12 times 11 divided by 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. Remember, 10 factorial cancelled. And then that gives you 360,000, 360 divided by 120. So therefore the answer is 303,003 different groups of boys. Not an easy one, I must admit. Thank you for watching Mathematics with Suleiman. Please don't forget to share, like and subscribe. Remember, subscription is free, and with your subscription, it can help me and encourage me to do more videos.